wasting the land. Somebody always can. I'm going to know.
That song always gets me hype. It's a Monday Night Delight. What's up, Flobo After Hours? You know, I'm up here in the treehouse having the time of my life here in the beautiful heart of Screenland, Culver City, California. Want to give a big shout out to everyone right now watching on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and on that Twitch. And if you're on that Twitch, drop me a follow. And before I get to today's episode, first of all, thank you so much for checking out last week's episode. I was in San Francisco, did a little pre-recorded thing. You guys made me know abundantly clear you hate it when I'm not live. So I'm back here for you guys today, but it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. Totally am mad. All right. Before we get to my guest today, very special guest, I want to say thank you so much to members of the Boisterous crew. That's what we call the members of our Patreon. Patreon.com/FloboBoys. And you guys make this show reality. So I got to give a shout out to Christopher C, Chrissy H, ACH, Edric P, Oliver E, Princess Leia, Matthew C, Lindsay U, John W, and Richard R. And because of their support, my book, Graduation Day, is going on sale tomorrow, August 10th. Why August 10th? Because that was the day I did stand-up comedy for the first time back in 2014. But it's not about me today. My guest today is doing it big in the music space. This guy has not one, but 2 Emmys, and has a brand new podcast. We'll talk all about that. Please welcome Lucas Cantor. How you doing, sir?
Hey, doing good. Good to see you.
Hey, man, I'm so glad you're here on a late Monday night. I mean, how was your weekend? Good?
Non-existent. I'm finishing up a film, so I've just been working through it.
Oh, can you talk about the film, or is it NDA?
Yeah, it's a documentary. It's called Failure to Protect, and it's super depressing. It's about I mean, it's an important film, but it's sad. It's about the way that Child Protective Services can take your kids away. Oh. And so, yeah, and it's hard, and I'm a new parent. It's hard to watch. It's hard to, watch it. But I've been able to write, because of the pandemic, right, I wrote all this music that was intended to be performed individually. So it was so I wrote it so that it could be recorded in people's houses, and so that we wouldn't have to do a session together like I usually do for my music. And so because I did it that way, I was able to do all sorts of interesting stuff, and it came out really great. I'm pretty proud of it. So that'll be doing festivals in the fall, and yeah, check it out.
Wow, I did not thought it would be that heavy. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, Haywood, I had no idea.
Yeah, so guys, it's gonna go uphill from here. I didn't mean to come out.
I thought it was Rush Hour 4 or something, bro. So music, man, that is something that I appreciate. I am a wedding DJ. That's what I do for the living. I spin Uptown Funk every week and get paid for it. But I gotta say, it's a whole different thing. We were composing music, man. Like, why was that your calling? At what point do you say, I'm gonna do that for a living?
Man, can I ask you a question before I forget?
Okay.
So you were a wedding. You're a wedding DJ. What is the worst? What is the worst best man speech you've ever heard? Just describe it to me.
Oh yeah, so I was. I don't know if you've been, but it's a venue in Malibu called Casa de Cielo, and the reason why I bring it up, not to trash the venue, it's a great venue, but it's so far up a mountain that you have to take a bus up there. So imagine you're at this wedding, you're at this basically is no man's land for 6 hours. So the best man one time decided in a very Love Actually kind of way to confess his love for the bride during his speech. You picked the wrong man. You should have been me. What are you doing? And I guess he was expecting she was going to jump out of her chair and go with him. But she was like, thanks. But he couldn't go anywhere. He couldn't throw a smoke bomb and leave. He was stuck on this hilltop until 11 o'clock. And I'm just like, give it up. So that was hands down the worst best man speech I was ever part of.
Did you have a soundbite? Oh yeah.
I was like, give it up for Bradley over here. Woo.
Wow. All right. The reason I asked, and that makes me feel better, because at my wedding, my groomsman gave I've worked many weddings. I've been to many weddings. He gave what was the worst speech I've ever heard. About me. And it was about how I had dated lots of other girls. That was basically his wedding speech. But Allison,
was it true?
Yeah.
Was it true?
I mean, I had dated other women in the past, yeah, it was maybe it was funny, but it was would have been funny at the bachelor party maybe, but not so funny at the wedding. But It's not. But he did not try to profess his love for my bride, so I guess could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse, man. That's the whole thing. I feel like these weddings are like, this could be worse. But that, I will never forget that. Because I was like my second month of working, so I didn't really have like the skills to be like, haha, good job. Like, I was not polished at all. So
okay, sorry to the fans to like totally derail the live stream.
This whole show is derailing, baby. That's what it's all about. There's no structure.
It's 10 o'clock. I'm a parent of young children, and this is past my bedtime. So
how many children?
You're gonna get what you get. What's that? I got
How
two.
many? Okay.
2 boys. Yep.
Oh, that's cute, man. Or did you want boys?
What's that?
Did you want boys? I don't know if you wanted boys.
Well, I mean, I don't think any parent is going to say, okay, between you and me, like, yeah, of course, as a dude, I wanted boys. Like, I would have been very, very happy had I had 2 girls or a girl. I was happy. I'm happy to have, 2 beautiful, healthy children. 10 fingers and 10 toes.
My mom was like, I wanted a girl, but you came out. And I was like, well, sorry, can't send me back. I ain't Amazon.
Yeah. Things you're not supposed to tell your children,
right, exactly. Sorry, my question like 10 minutes ago. Music composing, man. What when you decide that was the dream, that was the life, that was the thing you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I went to college for jazz performance on the guitar, and I guess I don't have my angle quite right, but I got a bunch of guitars here, and so I play guitar and banjo, mandolin, anything that kind of looks like a guitar, I can play. Yeah. And so I went to college to, what I tell people is the thing I'm qualified to do by education is to play standards at a wedding. So that's why, we might have even crossed paths on gigs before, back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I did that for years. I worked in restaurants and stuff while I was in college. And then I got to New York City. I moved to New York. I started working for the Olympics. That's how I ended up with some awards, doing music services for them. And then I was working for the Olympics and for NBC Sports, and I was in the music department, and I was, so I heard all the music that was going through there and all the music that they were using, and I saw how much they were paying for it, and I was like, I could write this kind of stuff. And so I had access to a studio in New York. Basically, a great mentor of mine said, well, I leave around 5 and I'm back in the morning at 10 a.m. So, here's the key. So if you want to work in here, when I'm not here, as long, make it so that I don't know you were here. Yeah. So I would have these like epic, like all night sessions, like every night, just like people dropping by, musicians here. And I was there all weekend. And I did that for, probably 7 years. I did a bunch of music for sports. I did a bunch of failed commercials. I did a bunch of plays because it's New York and you got to do plays. And so that's and so that's kind of the short story. And then I was convinced that I needed to move to Los Angeles. And a friend of mine a friend of my family is a big shot composer out here. Who wrote all the Disney stuff, and you would know, you grew up with his music, and so he invited me to come to a session, and so I was like, yeah, whatever. I've been to sessions. I've been doing a session every night for 7 years. I know what a recording session is like. Yeah. And so then I get to Warner Brothers, which is a studio the size of the house I grew up in, right? And it's a 96-piece orchestra of the greatest musicians in the world, and they started playing. I get there at 10 in the morning, at 10 on the dot. They start playing, and I'd say 30 seconds into the first cue, I was like looking for apartments. Yeah. Because I realized like this is another level of shit that it's like if you do like a student film where, you got one guy with a camera and your friend's directing, and then you go onto like a set. Yeah. Or you do a show in a little, arena, and then you go see it to a stadium and see how they do it. And so it was really like seeing it done on that level. I said, all right, this is what I got to be a part of. And I have so much to learn and so much to figure out before I can even get close to this level. So I moved here and I just tried to work for I tried to learn as much as I could. And I sort of started as an intern, even though I'd already kind of been a producer in sports, and worked my way up. And yeah, here I am. Now I got a little studio in the house and I get to do cool stuff sometimes.
As a film school graduate, there's many years with a camera. One dude in the room with a camera. Yep. What permits? We're going to do this anyway. Yeah. Well, the one thing I want to know about you hustling for 7 years is like when you're breaking night, when you're working all throughout the hours, what keeps you going? Like what makes you not shut down like a Windows Vista PC?
Huh. That's a good question. It never even occurred to me.
Dang.
Yeah, that never. I never felt like I was like, okay, I'm doing this so I can get through this to get to like some level. I just liked it. Like it was just seemed like what I should do. Yeah. I don't know if that makes any sense. I mean, I got into the habit of practicing a lot. And when I was in school, I probably practiced, I don't know, like 10 hours a day, more on a intense day. Because I felt like when I got to music school, I was kind of in the middle of the pack. And I was like, well, if I want to be good at I'm already in music school. So like, if I'm not going to be the best person in music school, I really am kind of wasting my, I don't know if I ever got to be the best person at my school, but I certainly tried,
Yeah,
and
of course.
so I worked my ass off, and I think that just like turned into a habit. I guess, and I don't think about it even now when it's like gets late and I'm like, printing stems or something I don't want to be doing. I do kind of have to think about, all right, well, I gotta, get this done. Yeah. But at that time I was learning so much and just, fucking with stuff and messing around with different, toys and different musicians. And the whole thing was fun. So
I have to ask that, man. And I alluded to it at the beginning of the episode. So 7 years ago tomorrow was the first time I did comedy. And comedy was always, yeah, thanks, man. I mean, hey, to be like, you can't boo me. I'm in my house. I can't bomb you in your living room. But it was weird to me because like, it was something I always wanted to do. It was something I always wanted to do. And I was nervous. But then they called my name. And then it felt like I went into the plane of Valhalla. Like it was like everything was calm. Like it was like, and I realized that's what I wanted to do with my life. And I didn't know if it was a moment like that for you. Like that Warner Brothers moment was mine at the Comedy Store at like 9 p.m. on a Sunday night. You know what I mean? Going like, this is what I want to do in my life. It's so cool. Question from Haywood Wong here. He says, Lucas, who inspired you to take this path?
What's up, Haywood? So Alan Menken really was the guy who like made me realize that being a composer for a living was possible, because I was he was the family friend that I alluded to. His daughter I went to school with his daughter, and so he was the one who invited me to a session, and like I really just seeing what he did at the highest level, I was like, all right, well, some version of this would be fantastic. I'm probably not going to get to write every Disney musical for the next 20 years, but I'm sure I can do some really interesting stuff. And he's been like, his way of helping me is he just invites me to stuff. And so like I get to go see kind of what his world is like. And I've now gotten to work with some of the same people that he works with. And it's great. But I'm inspired by like one of the amazing things. And I think it's the same. I have some friends who are comics, and I think it's the same, like at a certain level of any artistic profession, is that like, really, it's like my peers are the ones who inspire me. Like my friends, like my boys and girls and my wife. Yeah, my wife is also a composer. I'm pointing because she's upstairs. Is yeah, she's alive. I'm not like pointing to heaven. She's literally right above me.
Right.
Yeah, she's watching the Padres right now. But like my peers are like inspire me, because people are just doing such amazing shit all the time, and it's I'm like with this movie that I just finished. I got to I'm just amazed that I get to work with these amazing musicians, and they like, they'll play my music, and like I send it to them, and what I get back is just better than I thought it could have ever sounded. They just all bring something to it, and it's amazing. So I'm inspired. Like just working in the space is inspiring, and it's just, I love it.
Loving what you do is half the battle. So I gotta say this. I've been doing this show for about a year now. Episode 57. It's weekly, and I do have a Knicks award in the back, but it's not an Emmy. My man now has one Emmy. He got 2 Emmys. How did that happen specifically? What was the team around that? Tell me about that, and how does it feel having an Emmy in your hand?
Okay, well, I'll tell you, it feels awesome having an Emmy in your hand. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey,
it's very
no bullshit.
Cool. Yeah, no bullshit. It's like it's pretty cool, and I tell people like the key to like replicating whatever success I may have had is just, to like connect yourself with really cool projects. So it's not a like good rags to riches story. Basically, both of my Emmys are for being an associate producer on the Olympics. So, I did some shit on the Olympics, but like the Olympics were probably going to happen without me. Michael Phelps was probably still going to win 8 gold medals, whether I showed up to work or not, Right. And for the Emmys that I won are, like I said, as an associate producer. So everyone who produces the Olympics, we won the Emmy equivalent of Best Picture, which is Best Live Event.
Right.
So for that thing, and so I'm on there. So I'm like a guy who has a World Series ring because he's a trainer.
Oh, that counts, man.
It counts. I'll take it. And I realized and I'll tell you, like I'll get real with your late night audience. Like when I was 26, I was nominated for the first Emmy. I did not win, but I was nominated, and I realized like, all right, if I like go down to this person's office, make sure that I'm on the list for associate producers, because I was an associate producer, but I don't know if they're going to submit me or whatever. If I go like make sure of that, and I'm even nominated for an Emmy, that's just going to like help my career. Like, even though like it is what it is, and maybe, and so in 2006 we were nominated. I was sure we were going to win, so I like bought out a restaurant. I had a party. I invited all my friends, and I was like, "Yo, I'm going to win an Emmy tonight," and we lost.
Ooh,
No, I deserved it. I deserved it. I had to count. Like, I feel bad for the people who, like, Dick Ebersol probably wanted that Emmy. I did not deserve that Emmy.
Yeah,
but
was it like a candidate losing an election? It was kind of like, did you do a concession speech? What was that like?
No, it was like, because I think I was being a little bit of a dick about it. Like, just like flexing with all my high school buddies, and so they were all kind of happy to see me taken down a peg, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. And they're all still my friends. But in 2008 I did win, and like the straight up like the straight dope is that like it has really helped my career, especially when I'm doing like corporate stuff. Like, it doesn't, people in the music space, people in the entertainment space know that like you're as good as what you can do, and like what you've done is not necessarily a reflection of what you can bring to a particular project. It's a indication, but like, winning an Emmy doesn't mean that I can bring your thing to life. That's like more of a personal decision. But in the corporate space, where they're like looking for a composer to come give a talk, or they're looking for a composer to write a thing for something, having those credentials just makes everybody feel comfortable giving you a bunch of money. And so
you're like LeBron James, man, award-winning Eastman guitars. I see you, baby. Making it happen.
Does LeBron James play Eastman guitar?
I'm just saying the sponsorships. I just feel like I mentioned he did. He probably. Oh my God, that'd be weird.
Flobo, I'll take it. I don't think I'm like LeBron James in any way. Although I'm pretty tall. Yeah, you can't tell, but I'm like 6'4".
Space Jam 3.
So I can see Haywood Wong. Should I just answer him directly?
Okay, yeah, you
him
can.
Or her. I don't know if that's him or her.
That's a he.
But
I think he.
What's up, Haywood? So the Star Wars project, dude. Haywood, you were the only person like ever in the history of me doing interviews who has ever asked about that. So that is some deep ass research, and like
best fans on the planet.
Much love to you. So I'm going to try to reward that inquisitiveness. So the Star Wars project was a project called Star Wars Detours, which you cannot see because for reasons I'll tell you in a moment. So when I first moved to Los Angeles, I got a job at Remote Control Productions, which is Hans Zimmer's studio. And the way he runs his studio is like, there's a bunch of composers there. They all sort of work together. They all rent space together, and they all just sort of share projects. And it's really, they all work for Hans, but they all they all share projects. And so I was working for one of the composers there named Michael Levine, and he got hired to do this show, Star Wars Detours. And the idea was that it was sort of like the Family Guy Star Wars. That was like animated and it was comedy. And all of these, you can look on the IMDb, like everybody you would think of involved in animated comedy was involved in the show. Like all the A-listers, all the heavy hitters. Yeah. And it was funny, but it was kind of weird. Like it was very much, and you can see the trailer for it online still. It was very like it hadn't quite found its feet. Like, Family Guy is pretty squarely adults, right? Yeah. And whereas another cartoon show you say is pretty squarely kids, and this one was sort of both, and it was a little bit in the uncanny valley of that. And it went 2 seasons. That was the first couple episodes. Once we got to the second season, it really kind of found a voice, and I think it was a really good show. I worked on it for about 2.5 years. I got to go up to Lucasfilm. I got to meet some awesome people and hang out at Ewok Lake and do all that crazy stuff. And then Disney bought Lucasfilm, and someone at Disney looked at this and said, this doesn't work for the brand. So it's just in a vault.
Wait.
So I did 2 seasons of the show. I was a music editor. I got to write a little bit of music on it, but primarily I was a music editor. And 2 seasons of it exist, but you'll never see it. No, Rick and Morty, I think, is a little bit more squarely adult, even though it like sort of acts like a kid show. Like the conceit is that the Family Guy's the same thing. It's like the conceit is that it's a cartoon, so it's childish, but the content is for adults. But this was both. Like, it was a cartoon, and sometimes the content was childish, and sometimes it was for adults. And it kind of depends on the episode.
Remember Ren and Stimpy?
Yeah. Of course I remember Ren and Stimpy.
Sometimes I have to ask, man. It's like, I feel like some things are kind of from the obscurity. Mark had a question earlier. How does Lucas say being so great in shape? Great shape.
Thank you, Mark. It's called a filter. And
So can I get that filter, please?
yeah,
Damn.
yeah, no, it's camera angles and lighting primarily, and and showing myself from the chest up. No, but I'm like an amateur cyclist. So after I've just passed, my second son is now past 1 year old, and so like I was in the worst shape of my life until about a month ago, and now I'm like slowly building back. But in my normal life, I'm about 15 pounds lighter and quite a bit faster on a bike.
So the pandemic was all snack food then, like me, right?
It was both. I lost and gained 30 pounds in the last like 18 months.
Wait, how? I guess because
so my son turned 1,
right?
And then like it's like there's something that happened like at 1, it just you get more of a schedule. And so I was able to just get back on the bike. I got in really good shape. And then my other son was born. He was born this time last year, which for those of you who are paying attention was at the like worst part of the pandemic and also the worst part of the summer where everything in the fucking world was going insane.
Right.
And so like the whole thing was really stressful. The pregnancy was really stressful for my wife and for me and everything, but he was born and he's happy and healthy. But then, just a year of caring for an infant in a pandemic, like, you stop. First I stop exercising. Then I stop making conscious eating choices. And then I'm eating pulled pork sandwiches for lunch and burgers for dinner.
Right. Sounds right to me.
And then, it's pretty. Well, you seem like your metabolism can handle it. Mine can't.
I just do that intermittent fasting thing, but you look a total pig. I can't lie to you. It's at 12 o'clock. Blah, 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 blah. See you tomorrow. It's kind of a weird thing. But yeah, if you want some body tips, Lucas will tell you that. So make sure to check out his side project, Body by Lucas Cantor, coming soon. I'm kidding. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
This is kind of a side thing. This one kind of tickled me pink. Can you talk about Wu-Tang in space?
Yes,
because it was like a short website. I remember seeing it years ago, and I realized today I was like, "Wait, you were on that project?"
Flobo, this is the best researched show I've ever been on, and I was on the Today Show. They didn't ask about Wu-Tang in space, and so like the Wu-Tang in space was it was one of my favorite things I've ever done, and it was with my one of my favorite collaborators named Sam Spiegel, who goes by Sam I, and he's just. Look him up. He's just a fucking great dude. And he and I went to middle school together. He's a DJ and a composer and a musician. And we sort of like went to middle school, took like completely different paths. And then like 10 years, 15 years later, ended up like working together. It's like, he was like doing commercials and doing electronic music and being a DJ. And I'm like studying jazz and like learning classical music. And then like at some point we just hooked up on a project and we totally vibed. And we've been working together ever since. And I think he would say the same thing. We're just like, the stuff we do together is some of our favorite stuff, some of my favorite stuff. And I know it's his too. So Wu-Tang in Space was a project that he actually directed. So everything else that I've done with him has been a thing where we co-composed it. But this one, like he was the director of the show. So it was a commercial for Impossible Sliders.
Right.
But like the way, so like Impossible Sliders, like they're just like punk. And so they were like, well, we don't want a commercial. We want you to just kind of like make this weird like movie thing. And initially they said, we don't even want product in it. And like Sam being he works in advertising too. He's like, no, you have to have product in it. We can't just make you a weird piece of content without your branding on it. But so, yeah, they originally had wanted to do, they had a bunch of different ideas, and Sam convinced him. He's a big Wu-Tang fan. And he was like, Wu-Tang in space would be cool. And the guys were interested in it. RZA and Ghostface and RZA and Jizza and Ghostface. I think
RZA, Jizza, and Ghostface.
And yeah, Sam, I remember I was in Maine at the time when he got this gig, and he called me and he said, I want to do this. And the first thing I want to do is like, I'm doing this like fight on the moon. And I want it to sound like this particular fight in Godzilla. And he like described it to me. And I was like, you're thinking of Godzilla and Mothra.
Oh yeah.
I know exactly the fight you're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I like popped something up on my laptop really quick, and I was like, will this work? And he was like, yeah, that's exactly it. And so that's how I ended up sort of doing that gig. But yeah, it was these 3-4 like 3 to 5 minute episode, like just kind of funny, weird things. And it was like a call-in show. And yeah, it's hard to describe. It's like I've spent more time talking about it than it would take to watch it. I highly recommend going to watch it, but the music is super fun. Sam and I collaborated on it quite a bit, and it's just really good.
If you guys have not seen Wu-Tang in Space, I mean, it's like 3 or 4 years now. It's like a little web series. It has this weird mid-60s Star Trek Thunderbirds vibe, and people are asking Jizza for advice. It's like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, the advice was great, but it was like the idea of like, you know who we need? A call-in show about possible burgers.
It's the whole thing was hilarious, and it was so much fun to work on. I still like, and there was just every creative involved on that. There was Sasha, and there's just a bunch of I can't name everyone, but every creative involved in that was someone who I just like love working with. Yeah. And we've all done like a bunch of different stuff together. But yeah, that's like when people ask me like, point me to something that is like one of your favorite things, I will point them to that as far as visual media.
Netflix, you listening? Bring it back, yo.
We're trying. They're working on it.
Really?
I mean, they're trying to sell it to Netflix. I don't know if or to someone. It was like it had some momentum, and I don't know what happened. Pandemic messed everything up.
Yeah, for real. Ooh, I gotta ask you a semi-cliche question, but I really want to know this one. When you're thinking about inspiration, does it come to you like a bolt of lightning? Do you work at it and clock in and sit in a dark room and think of ideas? Like what's been the process to find what you can work on?
I'm in a dark room right now. So this is okay. The inspiration. Let's see. So I don't know. I have like two stock answers for this, right? So one of them is that Cole Porter. So I'll give you like my stump speech, and then we'll get into a little more depth because it's 10:30.
Hey.
So what I usually say is that Cole Porter was once asked this question. Cole Porter, probably the greatest songwriter of the 20th century, was once asked, fight me. I will fight. I will take anyone down over that. Cole Porter, greatest songwriter of the 20th century. But he was asked the same question by a reporter, and the reporter said, "So what inspires you to write a song?" And he said, "Usually a phone call from my agent."
Get to work.
To some degree that's true. Like in the realm of professional like music, especially music to picture, like what inspires me to write music is like someone like I have a job and I need to write music for it. On another level, like what I hope for in every project is that like I get some sort of spark of something that I think is unique and beautiful and tied to that project, and I get to follow that, to the end. And in this movie that I just did, I did get to do that. And Failure to Protect, I got to do that partly because the schedule was so relaxed because of the pandemic,
right.
And because of the way we had to work. But and sometimes I do get to do that. Sometimes time doesn't allow you to really get everything exactly the way I want it. But yeah, it's a mixture of like sometimes I'm really inspired to work, and sometimes I'm not inspired to work, but I have to.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
And sometimes you do your best work that way too, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of. I think it's what makes you professional, right? Because I'm back to LeBron. I'm sure there's some days LeBron gets up. Like, I'm 36. I feel tired, but he has a responsibility. So I think it's a balance of like the creative and
that is 100% the difference between an amateur and a professional. Is like. And I tell this to like young composers and especially like music people who are trying to get in the business. Like basically the difference between an amateur and a professional is a professional on his worst day or on her worst day is still good. Mm-hmm. And like you can still like I can crank out something that is like like in my worst mood on my worst day with all my shit breaking, and it'll still be like good. It might not be the greatest thing I've ever done, but it'll get the job done. Right. And then hopefully on my best day I get to do something inspired.
See that confidence, yo? Woo, that Lucas Cantor drip. I respect
hopefully. I said hopefully on my best day I get to do something inspired.
You know what? I mean, not to brag about this, but this show came out this late because I used to work at this old company called AfterBuzz, and I had one of their after shows at 9:00. So after the show was over, I would do mine. And I can tell you, by week 8, I was like, I am too tired to do this show at 10 p.m. live. But there is like that spark being like, you know what? If I worked for someone else at 9, why can't I work for myself at 10? And that's kind of what kept me going personally. So I relate to you with that, man. It's pretty deep.
It's also the audience. Like I love like, I like the fact that any people are wanting to hear stuff that I do or hear stuff that I say is like what makes me want to do it. It's like I'm like a hyper extroverted person where it's like, I feel like anyone who's part of my audience is like at a party with me and I want to make sure they're having a good party. And that is my only mission in life when I'm doing it. So it is, that's just like more about my personality, right? Is that like, I just want to make the people around me feel like shit is awesome. I guess that's what my art is about.
Put that on a t-shirt. You're listening to What's Up Flobo After Hours with Lucas Cantor. Look, question. I didn't know this until you told me, but I'm so glad you did. The podcast, Book Society, hosting it. Talking to me about that. There are a lot of podcasts out there. What made you decide to check out this one?
I'm going to open this beer.
Oh, take your time, man. I mean, look, I know how it is.
Open this beer and then
the twisty, great.
Oh no, I brought a thing.
Okay. All right.
I mean, dude, this is a recording studio. We got bottle openers and,
All
there's
the
probably a
devices
lighter
are covered.
around here somewhere just in case,
Got a wings in
there's,
back there?
But yeah, Book Society podcast started as a pandemic project, like so many things, right? And I don't remember who it was, but some talk show someone said, like every red-blooded American, I have a podcast. And that's
I got 7.
really,
I got you.
Yeah, you got 7?
Yeah.
That's a lot of podcasts. I don't know how you keep up with it, but so Book Society was, I like to read. I read a lot. I'm also a writer. I'm working on a book about sort of in the vein of the subject of the TEDx talk that I gave. This sort of a natural history of music, and art, and it's going to be cool. So I'm not quite good at talking about it yet, as you can tell, but it's going to be good.
I liked it.
But it started as I love to read, and I used to just kind of talk to my friends about books. I would see them, we would chat about it, and that just sort of went away during the pandemic. But I did find myself reading quite a bit more, and so I started just having Zooms with some friends, and like we would like everyone did, we'd do a happy hour, and I found myself kind of monopolizing the conversation, talking about some book that I'd read. And so I thought, you know what, I should probably like just do this formally. And then it also evolved into a way to meet new people, because like during the pandemic, how do you meet someone new? You can't just like call someone and say like, hey, do you want to Zoom with me? I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. I don't feel confident enough to do that. But what I have been able to do is like reach out to artists that I respect or people that I like and just say like, hey, I've got this podcast. This is the idea. I'm guessing you like books based on what I know about you. Would you like to do it? And I've really made some friends doing it, like of people whose like work I knew, who I then ended up doing a podcast with and now, talk to regularly.
So I have a show. It's Patreon's exclusive. Patreon.com/Flobo Boyce plug called Flobito's Book Club. It's worth a skim. And it's essentially a monthly show or every 6 weeks. How do you find the time to read a book a week, bro?
Oh, I usually read too. I'm usually reading a book for the podcast and another one.
Tell me. I need some speed reading tips or something.
Audiobooks. So like audiobooks when you're not like physically reading. And I'm also like, I think I've never been diagnosed, but like I definitely like jumble up letters and read really slow. Okay. So like I'm actually better probably with audiobooks, or like what I do is like I'll hybrid, like I'll buy the audiobook and the Kindle book and the physical book. Sure. And so I'll like listen to the audiobook while I'm biking, and then I'll read the physical book, when I'm sitting around.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, it's I mean, I just like it. I'm also like in the process of, researching this book that I'm writing. So I'm just sort of deep into reading anyway. But yeah, it's just a practice. I mean, how many hours a day do you spend on, fucking whatever? Like everybody wastes a lot of time, and this is how I waste mine.
Yeah, I'm sitting there going, there's no time. And I'm literally, my phone tells me I'm on the phone 8 hours a day. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like all right, Apple, true. I see how it is.
And me too. Like I'm not like a monk who doesn't like have screen time in his life. Like I have the same thing, but like, but I'm really not on social media. Like I'm a little bit of a digital ghost, and the way that I describe it to people is like, you can go to my website and you can find my phone number, and like I straight up, like if you want to talk, like if you straight up call me in the middle of the day and they're like, what's up? I heard you on this podcast. How you doing? I'll talk to you. Like if I'm not like actively in the middle of something, we'll hang out. We'll be buddies, because cool. I would much rather have like a meaningful interaction with a few people than a completely meaningless interaction with everybody. And that's just for my personal, that's how I feel. I don't have 7 podcasts to try to, maintain. So
it is the beast, as they say, man. Sometimes you're sitting there going like, man, I got nothing to post today. But if I don't post anything, am I a hack? So I totally
the algorithm forgets about you too if you don't post.
Yeah, it's definitely something that can be a slippery slope. So 2 questions about the podcast though, real quick. Book Society, why the title, and where do you see it going over the next year or so?
Book Society, why the title?
Sounds very
it was a cool sounding title. Like I wanted
sounds
to
like
have books
underground.
and yeah, I was like, I wanted it to have books and like also the idea that it was like not just me, it was like me and other people. That was
Okay.
sort of that was kind of the idea behind the title, that it was just, I didn't want people to think it was just me talking about books, because it's me and someone else talking about books.
Absolutely.
And a different person every time. And then what was the second part of the question?
What do you see it going? I mean, you have a lot of genres of books that are represented. Like, is there any kind of like spin-offs, any kind of tangents or anything like that?
No, my thinking is like, this is a podcast that if I found, I would binge it, and that's it. That's why it's out there. It's out there for people who have sort of cross-sectional interests with me. And like, I'm not the only one. I mean, people write these books and other people buy them, so I'm not the only one who likes them. And I think everybody likes to learn new things. I think everybody likes to like spend a few minutes, 20, 30 minutes, like maybe immersed in a world that they don't necessarily know a lot about. And then you can either say, oh, all right, well, I know enough about that now, or like, I want to dive into that even further. And generally I try to have what I tell people, what I tell my guests is, you should pick a book that is like, that you have some expertise in, either because it's like foundational to you professionally, or because like you just love it and you're obsessed with it and it's like your secret obsession. So like one of my favorite episodes is an episode with a guy named Cliff Fluitt, and Cliff is like a big shot music lawyer in London. He's like the guy. Like the Mick Jagger has a problem, he calls Cliff. Like Cliff is the cat, and I know him through music. We met at a conference, and he's the nicest guy I'll ever meet. We just sort of became friends at this conference, and I asked him to do this, and he said, "Yeah, let's read Watchmen, the graphic novel." And I said, "Yeah, cool." And then we get on there, and Cliff is the biggest nerd I've ever met. I had no idea. He has like artwork from Watchmen in his house. Wow. Like he literally has like pages from Watchmen. He knows like everything about it. He's read all the criticism about it. And he was just like a professor of Watchmen for an hour. And wow. And I've had that experience with several other guests where it's just like, sometimes they're people I know, sometimes they're people I don't. But the best ones are, it's like someone I know, and I'm like, shit, I never knew, like, this is like half your life. I had no idea you were so into this.
Yeah, it is kind of cool uncovering nerddom for sure.
It's fun, right? Yeah. My nerddom, the example I always give everybody is that I'm really into like Mesopotamian history and like prehistorical archaeology.
Wow.
Yeah.
Deep
so
cut?
it's a deep cut. Nobody knows that about me, but that's like, if I were my own guest on the Book Society podcast, I would pick Babylon by Paul Krivacek. That would be the book I would choose.
Well, you should probably get someone to interview you for an episode. Haywood Wong says this. That'd be kind of cool. We have a friend of the show. His name is James Lott Jr. Has been on the show a couple times. He actually has a podcast called In Between the Pages. He's written like 50 books himself. You guys should totally collab because you guys will have the best time of your life. I'm not sure if he has a particular niche. He writes for everybody, but that's pretty dope. My nerddoms, though, professional wrestling. I'm a wrestling fan since I was 3 or 4 years old, and you were telling me before we went live that you have a wrestling story. So let me hear it now, baby.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna try this out. I've actually never really this is like a thing that happened that I completely forgot happened. So, but when you said that you had like a wrestling crew, I figured maybe now's the time. So I think I will not name this comic. I don't know if she would want me to, so I just won't. But she's known, and she's on TV. Like you might know her. And so I've been friends with this woman for years. We did a bunch of stuff together. We came up in New York a little bit together, doing theater stuff, and then she moved out here, and so did I around the same time. And so we were just like doing shit. We used to do a show together where I would play music, and one day she just like calls me up and she's like, "Hey, do you like wrestling?" And I was like, I mean, I was a kid in America. Sure. Like, sure. And, first I was like, I assume you mean like wrestling, not like Greco-Roman wrestling. Right. Yeah. Singlets. And so she said that she was thinking about getting into wrestling. And as a, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. She just, everyone makes career choices, right? And she was like, maybe I'm going to do this. Maybe she had just watched Man in the Moon or something. And so she was thinking maybe she would go this direction. And she said, so someone invited me to a wrestling match in like, I don't know, La Jolla. I don't even remember where it was, but it was like by the ocean, right? This is like La Jolla or something. She's like, someone invited me to like a wrestling show there. And I said, all right, that sounds weird. Because so like, just like, let me back up a second. Like you guys probably know that there's like all these different wrestling leagues. Yeah. I had no idea. Like I had no idea that there was like minor league wrestling. Like I thought that there was like Monday Night Raw and like that was a show. and you were just on that show or you weren't on that show. I had no idea there was like wrestling where like 30 people watch 20 people wrestle. I had never experienced that
SNL,
before.
and then there's like your improv group around the corner.
It's so unbelievably obvious, but I had just never thought of it, you know? And so, yeah, so I went to this, so we went to this we went to this show. I don't remember who it was. I don't remember where it was, but it was like like I said, I mean, it was grandstands with, it couldn't have been 50 people. And there were at least 15 people wrestling. Yeah. And I got to sort of hang out afterwards. And I'm sitting next to this comedian, and she's like watching this unfold because they invited her like sort of this for the same reason I was invited to the session. Just like, why don't you come down and see what it's like? And she's like, I'm watching her just like get less and less into this idea as she watches it.
Oh yeah.
She thought she was gonna go and like fucking do it and hit it and like get out there. And then she's watching these guys like they're. I mean, as far as I can tell, they're beating the shit out of each other. Like even if it's the safest possible version of what I'm seeing, it's still fucked up.
Right.
Like that's actually blood. Like those dudes are bleeding. And yeah, we go backstage and just meeting these cats. And the wrestler had just come out, and I got to meet some of those guys in real life. And it was a scene, man. It was a scene.
Did you guys like exit stage left? Like we're not coming back to this ever.
No, we went back and we actually like did the hang for a little bit. Like, cause I mean, in comedy and in music, there's always a hang after a show. Yep. So we like went and hung out for a little bit and like got to know some of these guys. And it was interesting. Like, I mean, it was cool because it was like, I mean, it's just like what I do, right? It's like, you play a jazz gig, you go hang afterwards, you talk about other jazz gigs you've done and people in common. And it was just so cool watching like wrestlers it was just like for a moment I got to be in this world that I just could never have imagined.
Yeah. The first time I did an independent wrestling show, like you see this like 300-pound guy go backstage and is like, was that match good? I don't know. Let me know. That did too much. It's like, what?
And the heel, so sorry, someone commented something about heels. So I didn't know anything about the I didn't know about like being a good guy and then someone turning you heel, like, right. And I was hearing these guys talk about the shit like that. There's a essayist named Roland Barthes who was like a 19th century French critic, basically, like not like a critic like your music sucks, like a social critic, right? Like philosopher, right? And one of his first essays that he ever wrote is about wrestling, and he describes a wrestling match in Paris in probably 1890. And it's the same script. It's the same script that it is today. It's, there's a big guy, and then there's like a big, like, Bluto motherfucker who's the heel, and he comes out and he's got the upper hand. And it's the same script. It's like, this is one show that has been performed 100 million times for the last, several hundred years, probably 1,000 years.
Professional wrestling today, and it blows everyone's mind to say this. It's the last bastion, the descendant of Shakespeare. It is theater in the round. It just happens to be a ring, but that's exactly what that is. And the moves are exaggerated for the cheap seats in the rafters, like how it was in the Globe Theater back in the day. So I totally see that happen.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. It was great to see. Like, I would do that again. So look, if you've got a cool wrestling show coming up, that's like that one of those super underground ones, like, let me know. I would love to go do that again.
Well, there's a show next week. Our mutual friend of the show, Humza Mania, August 15th, Knox Pro Entertainment. That's going to be in Highland Park. I'll give you information. You
give me the info. That sounds awesome.
I'm going to totally roll through that.
So someone said something about have I worked with Dick Ebersol. I'll tell you very quickly my story about working with Dick Ebersol. So yeah, technically I worked with Dick Ebersol because I was working at NBC Sports, and he was the chairman of NBC Sports. I worked with Dick Ebersol the same way that a cook peeling potatoes at Fort Bragg worked with General Eisenhower on the D-Day invasion. I was a part of it. I don't know if what I did really won the war, but it helped. But I did meet Dick a few times, and the first time I met him was in Salt Lake City. I was an intern at the Salt Lake City Olympics, and Dick Ebersol famously smoked cigars. Smokes cigars. He's still alive. Famously smoked cigars, and he would at these convention centers where we'd set up our broadcast center, he would smoke in his office, and they would fine him like $1,000 a day, and he just paid it, and that was just it. He was just like, fuck him.
Wow.
And so he was always smoking a cigar. And so I'm running around. This was back in the days of tapes. This was 2002. So if you needed footage, it was on a tape. And so I was just getting a tape from, point A to point B, and I turn a corner, and I run right into like Ebersol's talking to Bob Costas and like, you know, whoever the like biggest deal Olympian, Bodie Miller or something. And I like run into him and I knock the cigar out of his hand as I run into him. And I'm just like, shit. And I just like pick it up and hand it to him and he pats me on the back. He goes, good hustle. Like he sees that I have tape. So he's like, good hustle. Keep going.
Wow, you don't see that bill for that $1,000 fine. You ruined my.
No, he was like, the best thing about sports TV is that everyone in sports TV started as a runner, including Dick Ebersol, including Bob Costas, including everybody, everyone you see on TV, unless they're like, you know, like Oral Hershiser, like, you know, was a pitcher, like unless they're like the color person who were like athletes, everyone starts as a runner. So like that really like, you know, so Dick Ebersol, like seeing someone do that, like he did that job 20 years ago, he was doing that job. Like 20 years before that happened, he was doing the job that I was doing. And so he recognized that. And, you know, yeah, he's just a great fucking, you know, he's a titan in the industry.
Ah, man, pay it forward, it seems like. But Lucas Cantor, so glad you're on the show. But we got to before we get out of here. You got to play a game. So are you down to play a game with me?
Yeah, totally.
All right, this one's the flavor. It's called Fill in the Blank. I'm going to say some statements, and I need you to fill in the blank. Seems easy peasy enough. All right, let's go. For you, Lucas, the best way to celebrate a day off is blank.
Oh, playing with the babies, playing with my kids.
Oh yeah, it's very, very democratic answer. Yeah.
Other answer is what's a day off?
Okay, fine. I just work too hard, damn it.
It's not that I work hard. It's just that, you know, shit's always you know, it's like, I mean, I'm practicing, you know, you do music stuff every day.
True.
They say if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. But it's also true that if you do what you love, you never get a day off.
Yeah, I'm with you. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
When people ask me, "Hey, what's in your cup?" It's almost always blank.
Coffee.
Yeah. Oh, how you take it?
Black, like a man.
My man. Yeah. People don't give enough credit to the musical score of blank.
Oh man, that is a loaded question. I would say anything Alan Silvestri does.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I think him and John Williams are, you know, pretty much the apotheosis of the genre, as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this was an underrated score, but if you guys have seen Loki, that score is fucking sick. Yeah, that score is amazing. I don't have her name at the tip of my tongue, but she's British. She's pretty young, and she is fantastic. That score is really great. I see I'm drinking a Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA for someone who asked.
Hey, what's up, Charlene? What up? When I was a kid, I wanted to be blank when I want to grow up.
I wanted to be a couple of different things. I definitely wanted to be a baseball player at one point when I was a very young kid. I wanted to be a musician, I think, for the most part. So, you know, yeah, more or less, here we are.
I mean, I wanted to be a
once I found the guitar, once I like picked up a guitar, I was like, yeah, all right, this is the thing.
That was literally the plot line of Jukebox Hero, wasn't it? It's one guitar. Jukebox Hero. There's no shame in the game when I say I'm a huge fan of blank.
The Dodgers.
Oh, well, I'm a Mets fan. I can relate. We're playing you guys next week. Yeah.
I'm going to go, I think.
I'm going to go too. Probably go to Friday's game. But yeah, it's going to be a good time.
So I'm actually going to oh, shit. All right. Actually, I can't. This is a secret. I'm gonna have to come back on the show in September and explain what this weird pause was. But let's just move on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you. It's highly unlikely that this person is watching, but I am going to be going to a Mets game in New York to surprise a friend of mine.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the surprise is that we're slipping out of first place. That's a big surprise. And finally, oh man, if there's a movie about my life, blank has to play me.
If there's a movie about my life, who has to play me? I think maybe you could do it.
You
pull it off.
I cannot do a TED Talk to save my life.
No, you got the energy, dude. You got the right energy. You got the right vibe. I like it.
If you guys have not seen this, if you TEDx Beckerich, right? This guy does a whole TED Talk about AI and music. It was riveting stuff. I am not that equipped. I'll just be like, yeah, well, cats. That would have been my entire speech, dude.
I'm glad you liked it. What a lot of people miss from that is that I did premiere the greatest piece of music in the history of the world at that TED Talk. And I have not gotten the credit for it, but it's true.
Can you elaborate for those of us uninitiated?
Yeah, so I wrote a piece. Like, part of the talk is about what music is, and people have been trying to answer this question for many, many years. And one of the answers is by a guy named John Cage, who's a 20th century composer. Really interesting stuff, but he wrote a lot of weird ass shit, like did noise and just weird stuff. Google John Cage and you will find many hours of weird stuff. But one of the pieces that he wrote is called 4:33, 4 minutes and 33 seconds. And what it is that someone sits down to the piano and does nothing, or any instrument, and does nothing for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. And it actually can be a very powerful piece in the middle of a concert, because the piece is the sounds that are happening during that time. So I thought, well, if 4:33 is music, then certainly 4 minutes and 34 seconds would be music, and 4 hours and 33 minutes would be music. So I figured out how to notate, like, basically every sound from the Big Bang to the end of time. And I called it Thought Experiment Infinity, and I wrote it out. And so now every sound that happens is part of my piece. So Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, part of my piece. Whenever your theme song, that's part of my music.
Don't sue me. It was funny because I saw a cover of that, or heard a cover of that, on an episode of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego as a kid. That's what's in my brain, because I saw sit at the piano and go, whatever. What up, Lars Newt? Man, thanks for rolling by, man. You were so awesome this weekend for stepping in for me on the casting thing. Lucas Cantor, check it out. Just put him in Google. Check out the podcast, Book Society. But enough about me telling you where to find you. You tell the people where they can find you, what you're working on.
Best way to find me, lucascantormusic.com, and listen to the podcast, Book Society Pod. You can find my Instagram, but I'm not there.
I know. I tagged you like 6 times last week, Lucas.
Yeah, sorry,
I'm
dude.
just like, what are you doing? I want to get you back, especially in September after that weird pause, to hear more about what you're working on. So.
No, I'm happy to talk about that. I'm definitely happy to let you know. I'm sure it'll be fun.
What's up, Flobo?
I'm hoping DeGrom will be back.
Yo, really, we need him more than ever. And the thing is, too, Stroman is great, but he has no run support. So he lost his last 3 games and all that stuff. But
he has no run support because you guys suck.
Yeah, we've been sucking. It's been pretty bad. But you know what? We're going to sweep the Dodgers. That's what's going to happen next week. All right. What's up, Flobo After Hours?
Yeah, break out the brooms. Good luck.
Every Monday night, 10 p.m. Pacific. About time I get out of here. Until next week, After Hours are closed. Lucas, stick around.
The baddest in the land.